Welcome in to the newest edition of Caught Stealing, the Fantasy Alarm Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, Colby Conway, over on X at Colby R. Conway. And with me here, as always, Joe Gallina. Find him over on X at Joe Gallina, Joegallina, king of the closer grid and closer report over at Fantasy Alarm, as well as, if I'm not mistaken, for you fantasy football folks out there, the DFS running back coach, if I have that correct.
Yep. Yeah, you got that right. Also, running back handcuffs as well. So it's a awesome time of year. Lots of stuff going on. The sports move. A lot of things happening. The playoffs coming up for baseball. Going into week 2 of the NFL.
We are certainly down the home stretch. I know this is a busy time where I'm my available time, which is minimal to begin with, is spent between monitoring my fantasy baseball team to make sure that team stays in the hunt. I have 15 fantasy football leagues that I'm monitoring, doing waivers for, on top of like you do the running back coach. Like I spend my my morning before work breaking down the starting pitching matchups for the probable pitchers grid, and by the afternoon I'm breaking down wide receivers and who they're lining up against at cornerback. So September is a busy month, but I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah. Do you find yourself, let's say, calling the San Francisco Giants, the San Francisco 49ers, you got to catch yourself, or stuff like that, where, you're just, writing some baseball articles, you're writing football articles, and just trying to keep track of the names of the franchises. But it
There's that. And then I'm getting into there's not like a quite like a direct like one-to-one with football and baseball in terms of stats, but I find myself like baseball, I'm defaulting to WOBA, WRC plus, and OPS. And then for football, I start looking at stats and I'm like, I'm so used to Fangraphs because all I've been looking at for the past couple of months. Like when I go here, with my eyes closed, I click here, I'm at the splits leaderboard. Why am I not there right now? Where's WOBA? Where's OPS? Where's Stuff Plus? Where is all this stuff? What am I looking at with yards per route run and targets per route run and fantasy points per snap? Where's
broken tackles?
What's the one? I think like weighted opportunity rating, which is like Whopper in football, and that's like the closest to all the woes in baseball. So always a dull moment. But work is surging. All of the good stuff that we have at Fantasy Alarm is available. Content's being pushed out, and just like the work over there, you have a Seattle Mariners team that is surging as well, despite only being 5-5 in their last 10. They have won 4 in a row. They're a 1 game back from the Astros now in the AL West. We talked about it back at the deadline. If Seattle could figure out the offense, they had more than enough pitching to make some noise. It will be very interesting to see, though. If I'm not mistaken, I know George Kirby's home numbers are better. Logan Gilbert's home numbers are better. Is the Seattle team able to win on the road come postseason?
Yeah, that's going to be we're going to figure that out, right? But like you said, the just playing 5-5 over the last 10, but the Astros have lost 7 of the last 10. So, but the offense has just been exploding. We talked about in previous episodes Julio Rodriguez being a second half guy. Cal Raleigh, the average is down, but he's still hitting home runs. Has hit 8 home runs in his last 26 games. Eugenio Suarez is coming on. Jorge Polanco is going to be one of the second basemen that are going to be targeted next year in fantasy, and Josh Naylor. I mean, the pitching is going to be the question, but they have a really good staff. But you mentioned Kirby with the splits, but over the past couple of weeks, Kirby has an 8.31 ERA, but nonetheless, as a staff, the Mariners have 6 quality starts. So Kirby just needs to figure things out. I'm sure he will. Another big thing, since they do the bullpen report, is Andres Munoz has been one of the best closers in baseball. So 34 saves, third most saves in baseball. So and it just seems that every week we talk about a different deep team. And it's just that time of year where, with the wild card and whatnot, Seattle, has a deep enough team where I think they could go really deep into the playoffs.
Yeah, and you look at this, and you said it right. Over the last 2 weeks, Seattle, 265 average, third best OPS in baseball, 352 WOBA. So the offense has been there. You take a look at their pitching staff here. Ever since the All-Star break, they've come out, haven't exactly set the world on fire with a 4.19 ERA, but it's league average, and they're getting a little bit better of late. But if you go to their, I'm filtering the numbers here, bullpen has been decent as well. Sub 4 ERA as a pen, 256 average allowed. So they can make some noise. I just would like to see if they can do it on the road. And it'll be see if
Mhm.
they can. If I'm not mistaken, I saw Paul Skeens as we're recording this on Wednesday reach 200 Ks for the season. So not that that was,
Nice.
anything of a surprise. I think his line before the year was in like the 220s or 230s, I believe. So we'll have to see if he can get there. And one little tip of the cap to Anthony Rizzo. I guess he officially retired, supposedly.
Glad you mentioned that because we'll be talking Cubbies in a little bit. So I saw that he was I think he was at the Yankee game last night in the stands, and just watching him play with the Yanks for the past 3+ years, it's just a pleasure to just watch. You watch him in the dugout; he's always laughing. Really good defensive first baseman. Obviously, in his prime, he was a really good hitter. Just a real good ball player to have on your team. Just lifts up everyone. And from what I understand, he's going to be working with the Cubs because he spent most of his time there. But kudos to my man
Yep. And
Rizzo.
of course, the fantasy managers will know with Anthony Rizzo, especially in those years in Chicago. I mean, he had a stretch. I'm looking here from basically 2023 through 2020 or through 2019, 23 plus home runs, 30 plus in a couple of those seasons. And then really 2015 to 2017 was when he was that really decent batting average guy, good power. And aside from 16, also had a 2 30-10 seasons under his belt. And then at the
Yeah.
end, obviously, the tenure in New York outside of his first year there wasn't exactly the most inspiring. And then obviously the concussion slash neck issue or head issue, whatever
Hmm.
it was, obviously derailed the
Yes.
end of his career there. But um,
Yeah.
I mean, hey,
Fans still
sure.
appreciated him though. He got a good the fans appreciated his effort, and like I said, really good defensive guy, really good guy in the dugout just to watch every day. So, and obviously part of that 2016 Cubs World Series team. So, that never take that
The
away from him.
iconic,
So,
the iconic scene. And what was it? That was
yes.
the ground ball to third to Chris Bryant, blast from the pass. Chris Bryant on the field, not even at third base, just on the field. Crazy.
Yeah.
But that's when he threw it to first. He slipped a little bit on the throw, and then it was the Rizzo catch with both hands right up in the air as they all dogpiled at the mound. I remember that.
Great
I
memory,
remember
Colby.
that. Yep.
Great. Yeah.
I sure
Yeah.
do. But let's touch a little news and notes here for you still. For some of you, unlike me, who are actually playing for a fantasy baseball title, let's talk about some players that could be impacting you here down the stretch. But the Philadelphia Phillies, as if they haven't already had some big enough injuries they've had to deal with, Alec Bohm and Trey Turner to the injured list. Turner's got a hamstring strain. I am very hard pressed to believe that he's back before the end of the regular season, maybe sans a couple of games. So he's going to be out. Bohm's going to be out. Obviously, they're already without Zach Wheeler the rest of the way. At
Mhm.
this point, I mean, Philly's obviously talented. Schwarber's got 50 home runs. Bryce Harper can turn it on when it matters most. And they still have two dominant southpaws that they can send out there, twice through the rotation, and Ranger Suarez and Christopher Sanchez. But at what point do these injuries become insurmountable for Philly?
That's a question that we'll find out. But they've got coming into today's action, and we're recording this on Wednesday the 10th. They have a 9-game lead over the Mets. Very comfortable that they'll, obviously going to be making the playoffs, and I think they're beating the Mets now as we speak. Th- they're a deep team, and so. But the loss of Turner, hopefully he's back for the playoffs because a huge force at the top of their lineup. Has basically been playing like the Trey Turner of old, 305 batting average with 15 homers. You got Edmundo Sosa taking his place, who's got a 274 batting average, 7 homers, and 33 RBIs this season. So, I mean, but nobody can really replace a guy like Turner. And then when it comes to Bohm, that loss is a little bit more tolerable. I mean, you have Otto Kemp who's going to be taking his place, and he's put up some pretty good numbers in the minor leagues. In 2024, had 16 home runs and 20 stolen bases in 123 games. Then even this season, in 74 minor league games, batted 310 with 16 homers and 13 stolen bases. Hasn't yet translated into big league numbers, but got got some hope with him. And Bryson Stott, remember him? I mean, he's been hitting pretty well lately, and he's led off 38 games this season, so maybe they could sneak him at the top of the lineup and get help.
Yep.
But one thing before we go on, Trey Turner, I said he's batting 305. So you know that he's the only qualified NL hitter that has an average of over 300
The
this
only
season.
one. Wow.
Yeah, and Luis Arias, you always figure that he's like a shoe in for a batting title, batting
Mhm.
282. So very strange
Yeah.
year.
It has been a strange year, to say the least. I'm pulling it up here because I know Trey Turner's been on a roll of
Hmm.
late for Philly. I'm trying to see here. His batting average, yeah, in the second half, basically from July 18th on, that was the first day back out of the All-Star break, hitting
Hmm.
337 with an 891 OPS. So the numbers there are great
Nice.
with a 384 WOBA and a 146 WRC plus, and then the straight counting numbers for the fantasy folk out there. I'm trying to see. I just lost them on my page, of course. This is great. Only 4 home runs and 199 at bats in the second half, but he does have 12 stolen bases, 32 runs, and 29 ribbies.
Yep.
So,
Yep. 36 on the season, his most since
yep.
2018. So 32 years old, still stealing bases
And
like a
then
kid.
you can take the guy out of Houston, but you can't take Houston out of the guy. Kyle Tucker has dealing with some calf issues, and it took a week till he could make it onto the injured list. So he's now on the injured list with the calf soreness. Chicago's obviously trying to do their thing. And of course, what did I see on X earlier this week? It's expected that Kyle Tucker will be signed by the Dodgers this offseason. I think you can copy and paste that with any big name free agent moving forward.
Uh, you know, I didn't see that, but obviously it's not shocking. But yeah, who's saying that? Is that coming from a beat writer or whatnot? I mean, is that kind of information supposed to be out there,
I
or
just saw it.
is
I
that
just saw it
tampering?
and I just got angry and scrolled past it. And
Because I'm getting angry now too. So, 'cause I had really wanted the Yanks to sign Tucker. I think he would have been perfect for
mhm.
them, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. But it's a shame with Tucker because in his prior 10 games before he got hurt, he was batting 400 with an OPS of 1.289. So, he had that issue with the hairline fracture in his right hand back in June. And he was slumping. We spoke about him. But it's a big blow to the Cubs. They got Willie Castro and Seiya Suzuki going to be splitting some right field work and while he's gone. So, tough break for both Tucker and the Cubs. I mean, now I just saw that Pete Crow Armstrong is dealing with he's in the lineup, but he's been slumping, and now he's dealing with a knee contusion. So, I mean, they're going to make the playoffs because they're comfortably ahead in the wild card race, but they got some challenges
Yep.
ahead
Now
of
I'm
them.
looking here. I was trying to pull it up so I can get the actual tweet or post. I couldn't find it, but I found one from the Incline Dodgers podcast of about 5,000 followers at the Incline Pod, saying rival executives believe the Dodgers will be the favorites to sign Kyle Tucker this winter, per Bob Nightingale.
Wow.
So
Yeah, he usually knows his stuff, Nightingale.
we'll
So
have to see how that
we'll see.
pans out. Obviously, you do the closer grid and the closer report over at Fantasy Alarm. Daniel Palencia, who has been one of the saving graces for my one fantasy team, is on the IL. So I got to ask on the closer grid. It's probably there. I just haven't had a chance to see it yet. And in case anybody else hasn't, who's the arm to pick up in Chicago?
So Palencia really, like you said, coming into his own this season, really cut down on his walks. According to the Cubs, Craig Counsell manager says basically he's not going to name a closer. He's just going to use matchups. But look, uh, if I had to pick somebody up off the waiver wire, it would be Brad Keller. Really having a career year, 23 holds, even has a save this season, only 3 in his career, 2.17 ERA. Then, if you want to take a flyer, just a dart throw, Andrew Kittredge, 2.73 ERA this season, pitching in late innings. And between the minor and major leagues, he has 51 career saves. And if I'm a manager, I always look at that. And if you're looking for a lefty option, because both Kittredge and Keller are righties, maybe Keller Thielber, take a dart throw on him. He has 20 holds this season, 2.08 ERA. And again, between his minor league and major league career, 25 saves. So that could be somebody. But if I had to, give you a name, I'd have to say it would be Keller. And I'd never think I'd be saying that name at the beginning of this season.
Yep. I Well, I mean, Brad Keller was my waiver guy last week.
I
Look at
know,
that, Brad.
yeah.
Who would have thought in September of 2025, Brad Keller gets mentioned in back-to-back caught stealing episodes? That is fantasy baseball, my friends. Going to Toronto, another AL hopeful here. Bichette placed on the injured list with a left knee sprain. Unlike Kyle Tucker, did not take Toronto long to get him on the IL. Did it within a day or two. He's been phenomenal this season. It was last year, correct, that he was basically like the biggest bust in fantasy baseball? It was
Oh,
last
yeah.
year. Yeah.
Yep. Batted
Yep.
225 with a 598
And
OPS
then this
last
year,
year.
phenomenal.
Yes. Leads the AL with 181 hits. It's his free agent year. He cut his hair. Maybe he cut his hair and he remembered how to hit again. But just look in the past few years. I mean, the Blue Jays are doing well now, but with Bo Bichette and Vlad Guerrero, I figured that they'd be winning the World Series by now. And who knows? They may still be doing it. But yeah, it's a pretty big blow because he's been pretty hot over the past 2 months, batting 380 with a 182 WRC plus over the past 2 months. So it's going to be looks like it's going to be Ernie Clement and Isaiah Falefa filling in
Yep.
for him. But,
And he hasn't run it all here in the second half, but also to go along with the numbers that you had, second half of the year, 424 WOBA, 196 ISO, and a 989 OPS. So numbers
yeah.
have been very good. And then let's do a little preview into the closer report probably next week. Looks like Trevor McGill is set to return for Milwaukee. So is it as simple as McGill comes back and steps right into the ninth inning role again?
I would think so. And the fact that they're talking about him possibly coming back next week is pretty good because it looked like he was going to be out until the end of the month. So it's good to see him, throwing the ball, getting some rehab action in, and looking forward to having him back for the Brew
Yep.
Crew.
And then obviously holds leagues, Abner Uribe just goes to getting you a bunch of holds again. So
Yep.
rinse and repeat with good old Abner Uribe. But those are MLB news and notes. For more injury news on Friday over at fantasyalarm.com, I'll have that's Friday. That'd be the fantasy baseball injury update that gets released on Fridays. Then the injury report comes on Mondays. So check that over there from yours truly. But Joe, as we continue through this episode, and we're going to continue on with Fact or Fiction. It's everyone's favorite segment of the show. So we'll hit a couple things here. So let's start. I'm going to start with a first round pick this year in fantasy and likely a first round pick again next year. But there's going to be questions about it. Juan Soto, obviously a phenomenal year here in the Mets, despite much to the demise of many Yankee fans. But his first 30-30 season of his career, his first 30-20 season of his career, the first 30-15 season of his career, he exceeded all of those marks. How much do we buy into the stolen base production this year? Because between 2022 and 2024, he had a combined 25 stolen bases, and that was across over 460 regular season games. And we're now at 30 stolen bases through 143 games this year. And he has 19 stolen bases in 47 games in the second half of the season. So can fact or fiction? Can fantasy managers expect this type of stolen base production from Soto in 2026?
So Soto, I remember a few years back, before the start of a season, and I forget the exact season it was, but he said, I want to start stealing bases this year. And I don't think he really did because he ended up getting hurt. He played, but he had some leg injuries and whatnot. So he's so good that whatever he puts his mind to, I think he could do. And, I think he's probably a very good team player, but he's also very interested in being known as like one of the best of all time. And he's very interested, in my opinion, in his personal stats. So, he got the 30-30 out of the way. And now he's probably going to go for a 40-40. Might even be able to do 40-40 this year because he has 38 homers and 30 stolen bases. Who knows? I mean, still a couple of weeks left with the stolen bases, but it's funny even that we mentioned the stolen base because I was flipping during lunch. I was watching the MLB Network, and his 30th came on Tuesday night. It was late in the game. The Mets were down like 4 runs. It was first and second, 2 outs, and Soto steals third. And you never want to make the last out right when you're down, but he stole the base. And I forget who the announcers were on MLB. Brian Kenny was one of them. But they were like, that's kind of a a dumb play to to do. But I guess he really wanted that 30th stolen base. But do we see? Is this the new Soto? If he wants it to be.
So let's see. All right, here we go. So over under for 2026 stolen base total for Soto, 14.5 over under. 19.5.
Over. I'll go over.
22.5.
I'll
24.5.
go over. Yeah, I'll go over.
The confidence is starting to dwindle. It went very quick to starting to think a little bit.
Yeah. Tell you what, if he doesn't do 40-40 this year, then I'll go over. I really do. I think he just wants to be, known as like one of the greatest of all time, and that's his not only does he want to win another World Series, I'm sure he does, but I think that just being known as one of the best players of all time and breaking all kinds of records, that's important.
Absolutely. Another, potential first round pick, at least top 2 or 3 round pick, I would assume. Cal Raleigh, what he's done this year, phenomenal. 53 homers, 14 stolen bases, hitting 240 this season with his expected batting average sitting at 238. So it's right within earshot of the actual average, but 30% strikeout rate in the second half, a batting average barely above the Mendoza line at 204. So fact or fiction, Cal Raleigh hits closer to 200 next season than 240.
Fiction. I think he hits closer to 240 than 200. Up until probably like a month and a half ago, he had a decent batting average, which, quite frankly, I was a little surprised because I think he has like a 220 something lifetime batting average. So 224, I believe. But look, you improve as a ball player, right? And we got to learn a little bit about him at the All-Star game. His brother was catching him. His father was throwing, pitching to him at the home run hitting contest. So, I'm rooting for him. And his expected batting average over the past 3 seasons has been 233 twice and then a 238. So I think that, close to 240, he's not going to ever be a 300 hitter. Let's not get crazy. But I think closer to 240 than 200 is probably, what he's going to do next year.
And then this one, I'm just going to jump right into it. Fact or fiction, Tarik Skubal is not the first starting pitcher off the board in 2026 drafts.
That would be dumb. I think he should be the first starting pitcher, especially since, he's a great pitcher. Let's face it, right? But he's also pitching in the AL Central, which is a little weak. I mean, who would you take over him? I mean, Garrett Crochet. I mean, he's a great pitcher as well, but he's got the AL East. Your friend Skeens, I love him, but might be a little win challenged. I'm hoping that the Pirates do it for you next year. I'm hoping that we see a 500 season from the Pirates for you, Colby. But I think that Skubal should be the number 1 starting pitcher off the board.
I agree too, but figure I'd ask anyway there. But I know, Joe, you got a lot of work to do with the running back coach, closer grid, closer report. I got the injury report as well as the probable pitcher grid. So for you still fighting for a title, looking for streamers for the day, or just looking maybe for a pitcher to take advantage of, every single day, the probable pitcher grid is updated over at Fantasy Alarm with all the matchups of the day. I know when I'm rating it, I look at pitchers' home away numbers, recent stats, the opposing or the opposition's lefty versus righty splits. I take a look at the weather in the morning to see, is the wind blowing out? Is the wind blowing in? Is there the dreaded in-game delay that could impact a pitcher's day? So whether it's DFS or seasonal, make sure you check that out over at fantasyalarm.com. And of course, like and subscribe to the video, because it goes a long way in helping us out here. So like and subscribe all the great content here at Fantasy Alarm. And our one last effort for this episode to help your fantasy baseball team, let's touch on some waiver wire hitters and pitchers to pick up. I'll go first, Joe, here. Former Pittsburgh great Josh Bell is on a roll right now. 6 hits over his last 3 games, 4 of which have been home runs. But even if you look over his last 48 plate appearances, 279 average, 333 OBP, 382 WOBA, 581 slug. The numbers are good. Only a 6.3% strikeout rate, too, dating back to August 25th. He's actually walked more than he struck out in that span as well. So for the year, the power's decent. He's not really doing much else for you. But right now, while the average is good, get in while the getting's good. So take a look at Josh Bell if you need some corner infield help. What hitters have you?
I like that call. I like that call. Just got one, but Jung Hoo Lee, outfielder for the Giants, Overall this season, 8 homers, 10 stolen bases, 271 batting average. But over his last 22 games, batting 345 with an 889 OPS. Not much power, some speed, but he'll keep you afloat.
Yep. At this point, you could do much worse than being kept afloat, to say the
Yes.
least. I'll kick it right back over to you. What pitchers are you looking at?
So Jamison Taillon, last I looked, he was pitching tonight, coming off the IL, and doing pretty well when I last looked against Atlanta. But you could use him as a streaming option. It's got some decent matchups to end the season. I think he faces Atlanta again. And sorry, Colby, but he faces the Pirates and St. Louis. So I think he could be a good streaming option. And loved what I saw out of Connolly early, Red Sox. A rookie that pitched on Tuesday night against the Athletics at Sutter Health Park, shut them down for 5 shutout innings, 11 Ks, a walk, and he gets them again in Boston next week. Maybe I'm going to the well once too often, but I'll take early next week.
And then the ones I'm looking at, Tyler Wells was decent in his first start and then actually pitched on Wednesday as we're recording this. 1-run ball with only 1 hit over 6 2/3 innings with 6 strikeouts against the Pirates. And his next scheduled turn through the rotation, barring any weather delays or impacts or they postpone him at all, he would get Chicago. So White Sox have been a little bit pesky against right-handed pitching, but still like my chances there with him. And then I'll give you another one. I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't watch the game. I wouldn't even take note of it, but I'm intrigued by Taj Bradley. I can't quit this guy. He had a great spot on Wednesday against the Angels. And I'm trying to pull up if he did pitch today. So it looks like Minnesota lost as I'm recording this. Have my boy Taj do. Let's see, real time. 6 1/3, 4 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. So decent back-to-back start. Yeah,
Quality
decent
start,
back-to-back
right?
starts
Yeah.
from him. The only thing I don't love is that his next start is going to come against the Yankees, tentatively, which isn't ideal, but it's the last game of that series. If a postponement happens or he gets pushed back, he would get Cleveland, who is striking out at an absurd rate against right-handed pitching. So hope for a little rain in a Minnesota game in the coming days, or in Minnesota, because it looks like they're going on a homestand.
Oh, it's in Minnesota.
It's a homestand, so
that's right. Twins were here.
We'll find. If any of you are listening out there in the great state of Minnesota, make sure you do a little rain dance at some point in the next week, so that way we can get Taj Bradley against the Guardians and not the New York Yankees. So those are the players to pick up to help your fantasy baseball teams. Of course, if you're a member of the family, any questions you have in your title push or DFS pursuits, post them in the Discord. Make sure you tag us, and we'd be happy to provide any insight or opinions to that. And if you aren't a member of the family, today is a great day to do so. Scan that QR code. Looks like it gets you a 7-day free trial. I've been a member for a long time, Joe, so I don't know if the QR code works or not, but it should. Give it a scan, check it out, go all pro, get access to the Discord, all the great fantasy baseball, fantasy football content that we have, as well as other sports. And supposedly someone tells me fantasy basketball is right around the corner, and fantasy hockey too. Wouldn't know, but I'll take their word for it. But if there is, we'll have content for it over at fantasyalarm.com. So make sure you check that out. Like and subscribe to the video. Give Joe a follow at Joe Gallina over on X. You can find me at Colby R. Conway, and we will see you next week with the newest edition of Caught Stealing.